Chapter 21. The sky was already bright. Yi Xiu decisively let it go, and Tian Qi and the other four were no longer polite. They were all old friends, and the division of items was also harmonious. Spider venom was a valuable item. Whoever picked it up was the same, and after selling it, they would split it equally. Chestnut boots were common blue items, and everyone randomly rolled the dice, and in the end, Mu Yunshin took 100 points and killed it splendidly. As for the peachwood great saber, it was suitable for Mu Yunshin or Yu Zhoumian's professions. Mu Yunshin had just picked up the chestnut boots, and although the market price was not as high as the peachwood great saber, he still decisively chose to let it go. In the end, Yu Zhoumian got the peachwood great saber, and even though his emotions were excited, it was also a bit strange. Breaking the spider cave first, and now killing the spider lord first, they had received a large experience reward twice, and Junma Xiao had already reached level 12. Tian Qi and the others would definitely level up after leaving this instance. After that, he went to kill the normal boss. He was used to it, so he solved it very quickly. After leaving the dungeon, Yu Zhoumian was confused again. He had decided to leave the team this time. But this time, he suddenly got the Tao Mu Tai Dao, holding the equipment in his hand, and leaving the team. It seemed a bit lacking in chivalry. Leaving the team, it was not good. If he did not avoid it, Tian Qi's words were still there. If he did not avoid it, it would be really embarrassing. In the end, Tian Qi still knew how to behave. He went over to ask a few questions, treating the words in the dungeon as a joke, and just let it go. Jun and Mo Xiao took the lead. Everyone entered the spider cave again. Compared to Yu Zhoumian, the most upset people were the Lanhe people of the Lanshi Pavilion. The spider cave did not win first place. 3 big hidden bosses, 2 of them were taken by others. This was the 4th time they went to the dungeon, but they still did not meet them, and were still suffering. The system had another notification. The 3rd hidden boss, Spider Warrior of Spider Cave, was killed by someone else. The first team to kill Spider Warrior was Zhong Chao Tang, one of the 3 major guilds, and the first team to kill the hidden boss was from one of the remaining 3 major guilds, Overbearing Scheme. So it could be seen that the 3 major guilds were all equally powerful, but this time, a Jun Mo Xiao came out of nowhere, currently occupying the most first-time spots in Zone 10 3 times. Furthermore, he also led a team to occupy 2 first-time spots on the level 10 stage rankings, causing the current Lan Shigu to lose face. As for the 3rd hidden boss, not meeting him could only be said to be bad luck. But that incident of being 10 seconds late, now thinking about it still made me want to vomit blood. The reputation of killing the head was gone. After finishing the dungeon, the people of Lanhe were all depressed. What is the background of this Jun Mo Xiao? Let the people from the novice village pay attention. Lanhe said in frustration. The group of people who made everyone lose their goodwill, Yi Xiu's group, were currently fighting fiercely, going in and out of the dungeon, busy as hell. A night in this newly opened area quickly passed. Some people were happy, and some were sad. Chen Guo woke up at 11 o'clock, almost noon. She had a very regular life, rarely sleeping in. It was just that yesterday, she had just opened Area 10, watching the excitement with the others, so she went to bed quite late. Chen Guo tried to calculate the time, and found that she had slept for 8 hours. After satisfiedly patting her back, she jumped up. Chen Guo was also in the internet cafe, to be more exact, in the room on the 2nd floor, in the same place as Yi Xiu. Compared to the newly arrived Yi Xiu, Chen Guo was very familiar with the surroundings. She had grown up in the Xing Xian internet cafe since she was young, eating, sleeping, and going to class. When she was in school, other people would go home after school, but she went straight to the internet cafe after school, so there were quite a few misunderstandings. Xing Xian internet cafe was her home. Chen Guo had this ingrained thought since she was little. Because her father thought the same, he wanted to run this internet cafe as carefully as he would his own home, ever since the internet cafe was very small, when Chen Guo was very young. Now this house was very big. She was the only one left in the house. That year, right after she took the college entrance exam, Chen Guo's father suddenly passed away due to a heart attack. Chen Guo didn't have a mother, at least in her impression, she never had one. After finishing her father's funeral, the family discussed how to handle the internet cafe, how to arrange for Chen Guo. Chen Guo didn't think twice, threw away the university entrance exam notice, and took over the internet cafe. Under the astonished gazes of her close friends, she followed her father to continue running the internet cafe and taking care of this house. In the blink of an eye, 9 years had passed. Now Chunghwa had the ability to buy herself a comfortable house, but she had never had such thoughts. Staying in this internet cafe, she felt very good, felt very peaceful, perhaps because she felt that this was home. Even though she was alone, she did not feel lonely. The weather is very nice today. Chunghwa stood by the window and looked outside. The clear blue sky made the sunlight even more dazzling. "Dad, come sunbathe too," Chunghwa said with a smile, picked up the photo of her and her father, placed it on the window, and welcomed the light outside. After dressing and washing her face, Chunghwa cheerfully walked around the living room. Seeing that the door to the storage room was open, she peeked in to look, but Yishio was nowhere to be seen. "Where are you?" Chunghwa muttered. Pulling open the door, Chunghwa immediately entered her internet cafe. The internet cafe was packed because Glory had opened Zone 10. The night gang left, and the day gang immediately took their place. Every screen was filled with Glory, and everyone was wearing headphones, lost in a strange realm of talking, laughing, and screaming. Chunghwa went downstairs to the counter and asked the counter girl where Yishio was going. The girl pointed to the inside of the smoking area. "Are you still playing?" Chunghwa was shocked and walked to the other side. The smoking area was filled with the smell of cigarettes, and Yishio was in the place with the most smoke. Chunghwa frowned and shook her head to avoid the smoke, rushing in front of Yishio and pulling on his headphones. "Still playing? Want a dot?" Yishio turned around and said, "It's still early," and immediately turned back to continue the operation. Boom. Chunghwa glanced at the screen. "Spider Cave." "Yeah. What level is it?" 17. Chunghwa was shocked and looked closely at Lord Grimm's experience bar below the screen. He was almost level 17. After finishing this dungeon, he would level 18. At this time, there were only 20 minutes left until 12 o'clock, a new area, and he could reach level 18 in 12 hours. This was definitely a record for clearing the land. However, the system doesn't have statistics for this kind of record, but on the forum, there are countless people who use these numbers to prove how much they level up. Chunghwa continued to look, and saw clearly the people in Yishio's team. Yu Zhongyan? Chunghwa suddenly felt like she had seen this name before. Thinking about it, memories flashed through her mind. "Didn't this guy scold you last night?" Chunghwa pointed at Yu Zhongyan in the team. "That's right. Why are you still in a team with him?" Chunghwa was completely confused. "Because he scolded me on the World Channel, so no one would let me join the team." Yishio said. "Who asked you for this reason?" Chunghwa was angry. "I'm so old. Why would I still go on the World Channel to scold him?" Yishio laughed. Club suit, club suit, club suit, club suit. Chapter 22. Yishio retires. 1. Chunghwa still didn't understand. Even though Yishio didn't mind, why did the other side let him join the team? What exactly happened? Chunghwa asked. "They probably wanted to let me join the team and plot against me, but then they saw that I played so well and could help, so they let me go," Yishio said. "Then why are you still willing to work for them? Do you have a future or not?" Chunghwa felt angry on Yishio's behalf. "It's nothing. It's fine." As Yishio spoke, his spear was swung on the screen, knocking down the Spider King, who was surrounded by 5 people. Chunghwa saw a series of identical messages appear on the system. Teammates Tian Qi, Yu Zhongmin, Mu Yunshin, and Qian Shengli all chose to ignore the equipment dropped by the Spider King. What does this mean? Chunghwa was surprised. "I helped them a lot, so they let me pick up the items first. Aish, I really can't refuse." As Yishio spoke, he decisively chose to ignore it. He had been given priority in choosing. He had already picked up a blue item long ago, but these people still wanted him to look at it again. Chunghwa's eyes widened. Just now he felt that someone like Yishio was really modest. This guy didn't come to work but to be someone's boss, right? After defeating the boss, he got priority in choosing first. Surely only the core members of the team were qualified. And the first condition was that the team was only made up of acquaintances. Everyone knew each other. Then they could give priority to the person with the most contribution. What about the group we were looking at? Before going to sleep, Yishio was still an enemy that they had plotted against. How come the moment they woke up, they were all turned into underlings? Tell me, what exactly happened? This time Chunghwa refused to give up, and would not let them go until they found out the results. "I just helped them a lot," Yishio said. "How much?" Lead them to complete the first kill of the Spider Cave and Spider Lord dungeons. Yushio said, "You had your first kill 3 times last night?" Qingguo was surprised. She had been playing for 5 years, and she had not gotten a single head kill. This person had played all night and another morning, and in less than 12 hours, he had gotten 3 times. This contrast was truly eye-catching. "Lucky," Yushio said, stretching and standing up. On the screen, the entire team had already left the dungeon, and the sound of farewells could still be heard faintly coming from the headphones. Yushio took the headphones from Qingguo's hand and put them to his mouth, shouted a big goodbye, and immediately left the game. "I'm so tired. I'm going to sleep," Yushio said. "Do you want to eat something before going to sleep?" Qingguo asked while looking at Yushio. To be honest, she didn't see the word tired on Yushio's face. This person had played all night and another morning. At first glance, he looked a bit tired, but the problem was that yesterday when they first met, this person had shown a bored and spiritless appearance. It was really impossible to see that not sleeping for so long had any harm to him. "No need. I'll eat after I wake up." Yushio turned off the computer and replied, then ran away. Yesterday, Qingguo had given him the key to that room, opened the door of his pitiful little storage room, covered his head, and fell asleep immediately. It had to be said that this room was very suitable for sleeping during the day. As soon as the door was closed, he had to rely on the light from the small window above. There was no disturbance from light at all. After Yushio fell down, he quickly fell asleep. This sleep was very deep. When he woke up, it was already very dark. It was hard to imagine that someone who had just gone through such a difficult time could sleep so completely unaware of the world. Sitting up from the bed, Yushio didn't turn on the light. He fumbled to light a cigarette. After quietly smoking it, he stood up and left the room. The other 2 bedrooms were locked. Yushio knew that one belonged to Qingguo, the other belonged to a girl named Tangro. She was said to be the longest-serving employee at the Xing Xian Internet Cafe. She had been here for almost 2 years. But due to vacation, she hadn't been around these past few days. The other employees who needed a place to stay were all living in a nearby apartment complex. Qingguo had rented a room reserved for employees there. Yushio was currently a substitute. Qingguo said that once someone stopped working, he would have a chance to get a place to sleep. Going to the bathroom, Yushio saw a piece of paper stuck to the mirror. He glanced at it boredly, only to find that the paper was for him. Qingguo had prepared some cleaning supplies for him and placed them on the sink. Yushio tore the paper off, feeling a little surprised. Mainly, he didn't think the owner would be so meticulous. As for being touched, this little thing really wasn't that bad. Just saying thank you was enough. After brushing his teeth and washing his face, Yushio looked at his watch. It was already past 9 o'clock. He hadn't eaten all day and needed to find something to fill his stomach. He walked from his room to the internet cafe and felt something was a little strange. Although the second floor had a higher fee than the normal area, it was too quiet at the moment. Yushio walked downstairs in confusion, but the further he went, the darker it got. The lights on the first floor of the cafe weren't even on. What's going on? Yushio looked around in confusion and found that although the lights on the first floor weren't on, there were quite a few people, and quite a few people were even crowding the aisles. On the south wall, a 200-inch projection screen was hanging high up, and images were being projected. The sound echoed throughout the internet cafe. Everyone was extremely silent. The people sitting in front of the computer chairs or standing in the aisles seemed to have forgotten what they were doing in the internet cafe, just treating this place like a movie theater, quietly staring at the screen. Yushio quickly heard the sound coming from the TV. 2 names he was familiar with were appearing on it. Yushio, One Autumn Leaf. What was shown on it was clearly the image of his professional life and glory. The narrator used the most emotional words possible to describe the achievements and honors he had achieved. 3 times the Alliance Champion, 3 times the Alliance Most Valuable Player title, 2 times the All-Star Attack Award, 1 time the one-hit kill. Whether it was a team or an individual, Yushio was at the peak of the Glory Professional Alliance, the goal of all professional players in Glory. Now, let's recall the outstanding images of the battle god One Autumn Leaf under Yushio's manipulation. The low and sorrowful voice of the narrator just ended, and the screen showed the god of fighting, One Autumn Leaf, winning every time. These were images that could excite everyone at any time. But now, everyone in the internet cafe was silent, no praise, no cheers. Everyone silently watched these images flash by. They knew everything from noon today had become the past. At noon today, the Jiashir Club held a press conference to announce the news, announcing that team captain Yushio had decided to retire. This mysterious expert did not even attend the press conference to announce his retirement. Everyone only saw the Jiashur manager present a retirement certificate with Yuchio's signature. Then the Jiashur manager announced that after Yuchio retired, he refused to accept other positions offered by the club, and now he had left the Jiashur club alone. The images kept moving. Fighting, killing, records. The narrator inserted a few sentences at the right time, gradually talking about the recent decline of Yuchio and Jiashur. Some people watching in the internet cafe seemed to also start sobbing. Chapter 23. Yuchio retires too. The club could invite a new generation of experts like Sun Xiang to revive it again. What about the previous generation of kings? They could only endure the erosion of time on their own and then choose to leave. He left resolutely, but deep down he was not willing to accept it. He still wanted to strive. He still did not feel that his professional life had reached a dead end. However, he had no choice. Accept the conditions and stay in the club to train? This seemed like a humiliating choice, but Yuchio saw through it thoroughly. He knew very well that the club thought that he would not be willing to endure this humiliation and would definitely choose to leave, so they gave him this choice. Once he unexpectedly agreed, the club would also think of other methods to force him. This was very cruel, and for the club, it was just a business choice. There was no personal feelings mixed in. The alliance had already become heartless because of commercialization. Yuchio had not yet retired. In fact, the club understood clearly. Using retirement as a condition was proof that they were clear about this. They wanted to throw away this burden, but they were afraid that competitors would take advantage of the situation and become powerful. They would rather Yuchio be miserable than to become an opponent. Therefore, forcing Yuchio to retire was the result they wanted, and indeed they succeeded. Yuchio could see through everything and could only follow the script they wanted. Struggling until both sides were left with bruised heads? He didn't want to, because he still had a path to take. Retiring for a year, this forced choice is not necessarily not an opportunity. Taking a step back is like taking the sky and the sea wide open. However, this step seems too big. Let's stop here. When the TV started playing the subtitles, Yuchio finally couldn't watch anymore. The station that made this program intentionally edited it to be sad, making it so that several customers in the internet cafe cried out loud, talking about bitterness, nostalgia, and pain among all the viewers here, who could compare to the person involved like him. Yuchio pushed through the crowd and escaped from the internet cafe, standing outside the main door and letting out a sigh, but he could still hear sobbing sounds coming from his ears. He turned his head and saw that Guo was hiding outside alone, her eyes still sparkling. When the two of them discovered each other, it seemed bad not to greet each other, so Yuchio could only be concerned. "Boss, are you crying? You're a beast. Don't you have any feelings?" Guo said. "There are a lot. Can't you stand it, and you're running out here?" Yuchio said. "Get lost." Guo scolded. "Do you have any paper?" Yuchio touched his whole body. "Is a cigarette pack okay? I'll go get it." Without waiting for the boss to get mad, Yuchio hurriedly ran back to the shop to find some paper. The crying in the internet cafe seemed to get louder, both men and women. This time, Yuchio couldn't bear it anymore, and his heart was filled with sorrow. He knew clearly who these people were crying for. Thinking of this, the corners of his eyes couldn't help but suddenly heat up. Yuchio hurriedly ran to the counter to get a tissue, rushed out and stuffed it into Guo's hand, turned around, took out a cigarette, and took a deep breath. "What? Are you crying too? Do you need tissue?" Guo behind him seemed to notice. "What? How could I cry?" Yuchio turned around, conveniently blowing out a puff of smoke, blowing it all over Guo's face. The tears of sadness that had just been wiped away flowed down again after being blown away. Guo waved her hand to clear the smoke, unexpectedly not saying anything more, stuffed the packet of tissues into Yuchio's hand, turned around and returned to the internet cafe. Yuchio leaned against the door of the shop, quietly finished smoking a cigarette, took out a tissue, forcefully blew a bunch of snot, and walked towards the restaurant across the street. When Yuchio returned to the shop after eating and drinking his fill, picking his teeth with a toothpick, the memorial movie screening for Comrade Yuchio had finally ended, but the atmosphere in the internet cafe had not yet ended. Many people's eyes were red. Fortunately, most of the people present were like this, so there was no need to be embarrassed. In contrast to Yuchio's calm appearance, it was easy for people to see him as a heartless beast. If you didn't explain that you weren't a glory player, it would be very awkward to ask people. Owner Chin didn't know where she was right now, so Yuchio went to find his sister sitting at the counter to listen in, mainly wanting to ask what this private screening was about. After asking, he found out that Xing Xian Internet Cafe would often hold a live screening of Glory's matches. There was no competition today, but the important event of Yi Xiu retiring happened, and the esports channel also showed a special program, so Xing Xian Internet Cafe was considered to be live streaming the match. In the past, when the match ended, everyone would be boiling with blood after watching, stimulating their enthusiasm for the game more than ever, leading to the internet cafe being packed with people and their income skyrocketing. But as soon as today ended, the emotions of the Glory players were rarely gloomy. Some immediately went home to hug their pillows, some invited a few friends to go out to relieve their boredom. Of course, there were still people staying at the internet cafe to continue playing games. After all, not everyone was a fan of Yi Xiu. These people would be indifferent to his retirement. However, under the influence of the atmosphere, they continued to play games but looked a bit absent-minded. The entire Xing Xian Internet Cafe was very quiet. If it was a normal day, the Glory players would definitely be wearing headphones for talking or shouting curses. How lively. When Yushi was thinking about what to do, he saw Qingguo walking down from the second floor. He hurriedly went up to ask, "Boss, am I officially going to work today?" "Yeah," Qingguo said, "but after you go to work, you can't just sit around. You have to watch the counter over here." "Can you play games?" "Yes, use the one at the counter." Qingguo pointed at the computer where the counter girl was watching a Korean drama. "What about smoking?" Yu Xiu asked. Qingguo glanced at him and nodded. "If you want to smoke, then smoke. But I told you this morning, you can't smell of cigarette smoke, and you can't drop cigarette butts." "Understood," Yu Xiu said. Then Qingguo taught Yu Xiu how to help customers turn on and off their computers. Finally, she said, "Actually, most of the customers are overnight customers. They're already on before 11, and they'll automatically turn off around 7. You don't have to do anything, just watch over them. If a customer needs something, just ring the bell." "What should I do if the computer breaks?" Yu Xiu asked. Although he wasn't stupid about electronics, he didn't have the ability to fix machines. "Restart," Qingguo said. Yu Xiu wiped his sweat. "Restarting still doesn't work?" "Change to another computer," Qingguo said. Yu Xiu was sweating again. Just as he was about to ask more, Qingguo interrupted him. "You're on the night shift. There's no shortage of machines, just change them. But if there's any problem with the machine, you have to write it down and find an expert to fix it tomorrow." "Ah, I understand." Yu Xiu nodded. Chapter 24, Dungeon Record. Qingguo, who had just quietly wiped away her tears because Yu Xiu had retired, had now returned to normal. After thoroughly explaining to Yu Xiu what he needed to know, he found a computer to play Glory. Yu Xiu stood not far away and watched a few times. He saw Qingguo enter the PK arena with others, but he was clearly uneasy. When piking, there were always some important mistakes, both low and high level. Losing 3 consecutive matches, Qingguo slammed the keyboard and exited the game. He turned his head to look at Yu Xiu, who was standing there picking his teeth and pretending that nothing was wrong. After glaring at him, he ran back to the second floor. Yu Xiu looked at his watch. It wasn't long before his night shift was 11 o'clock. The counter girl was obviously quite skilled at time control, and her progress in watching Korean dramas was just right. As soon as an episode ended, the time jumped to 11 o'clock. She stood up and smiled at Yu Xiu. "Brother Yi, can I get off work?" Go. Yu Xiu had been waiting for this computer for a while. The internet cafe staff who got off work at this hour wasn't just that girl. After all, the daytime and late evening hours wouldn't be as quiet as the night shift. One person definitely couldn't take care of them all. Although the internet cafe staff weren't close to Yu Xiu yet, they had gotten to know each other. They greeted each other politely and left one after another. The internet cafe became extremely quiet. The sound of the mouse and keyboard resounded clearly, completely different from the hustle and bustle of the newly opened area last night. Thinking that this was all due to his retirement, Yu Xiu sighed softly, sat down at the counter, inserted his account card, and entered the game. As soon as he got online, he received a series of messages. Yu Xiu opened them to see. It was from Tian Qi and the people who used to be on the same team. "Big brother expert, you're here." Tian Qi, Mu Yunshin, and Qin Xingli all greeted each other, except Yu Zhangmin. "Is everyone here?" Yu Xiu answered each of them with a sentence. "Ah, Sleepy Moon didn't come." The 4 of them replied at the same time. "Are you angry again?" Yu Xiu remembered a certain kid. "No, he's not in a good mood. Didn't Yu Xiu announce his retirement today? He really likes Yu Xiu, so he's a bit down. He didn't play at night." Tianqi said. Yushio really couldn't help but laugh and cry. He couldn't imagine that the other guy was his fan. Letting him know that he was Yushio, letting him know that he had been despicable and shameless towards his own idol, he didn't know what he would think. If we don't have enough people, it wouldn't be good to meet a hidden boss when we go to the spider cave, Yushio said. Just add one more person? Tianqi asked the expert boss for his opinion. Or should we go to the dry bones graveyard? Yushio said. Okay. Tianqi quickly agreed. The dry bones graveyard was a level 15 to 20 dungeon. Tianqi and the others had actually wanted to go long ago, and they were hoping to get a few more top spots under Yushio's leadership. However, Yushio's thoughts were different from their needs. Yushio didn't care at all about the glory of getting the first kill in the dungeon. Furthermore, if he wanted to get the first kill, he had to maintain his level at the top. This was something Yushio couldn't do. It wasn't that his skills weren't good enough. It was that he didn't have enough time. This morning when he logged off, Lord Grimm was clearly ranked 5th in the rankings of Zone 10 at level 18. But where was he now? Yushio opened the list to take a look. Lord Grimm's name had disappeared, and the rankings were filled with level 22s. Why? Because the other party's guild was an organized first kill competition. 2 or 3 people used one account at the same time. Their characters were online for 24 hours, taking turns playing, making up for their shortcomings with diligence. No matter how strong Yushio's skills were, he couldn't compete with them. Due to all sorts of reasons, getting the first pass in the normal areas was like finding gold. In addition to being named very impressively, it also reflected the team's technique and strength and the leveling speed being too terrifying. If compared, what showed the team's technique and strength even more was the dungeon clearing record. The record was measured by time. At first, the record time would be set by the system. If a team broke this time, their name and record time would be put up. If they continued to break it, they would change it. The record-breaking reward can be obtained multiple times. The reward is also very rich, not like the experience, money like the first time, but is to give the team at least one purple equipment or above. Randomly will reward some other things. The record is based on time. Must be after level 20 to leave the novice village. Yushio conveniently took a look. The first time breaking the Frost Forest instance has been completed. The system record has also been renewed. The number of times it has been renewed is written behind. Currently, it has been changed 3 times. On the board is the team of the Zhongqiao Hall Guild. The record is 26 minutes 12 seconds 48. The time to break is 18:23 in the afternoon. Yushio scratched his head, a little embarrassed. His impression of this instance is quite vague, but he knows that this record will definitely be broken. Currently, the highest level player is only 22. The final result will be obtained by a team of all level 25. However, if there was even one player in the team who was over level 25, the dungeon achievement would be invalidated. Big Brother expert, we've arrived at the Dry Bones Graveyard. Tianqi sent a message at this moment. The levels of these people were all the same as when they left the game. It seemed like they were the type to sleep during the day like Yushio. All right, I'll be right there. Yushio hurriedly controlled Lord Grimm to run towards the Dry Bones Graveyard. They should have been able to clear this dungeon when they reached level 15. But Yushio's Wu Tianji currently needed strong spider silk to improve. Yesterday, he expressed his needs to Tianqi and the others, meaning that after level 15 he did not plan to change the dungeon. But the other 4 still remained, stuck with Yushio in the spider cave. With this kind of sweeping, the strong spider silk was still not enough. This was an item that the hidden boss Spider Lord would definitely drop. The normal boss Spider King and the 2 small bosses also had a certain drop rate. Yushio and the others fought hard until 11 o'clock. The hidden boss appeared 3 times. One of them was a lord and obtained 5 strong spider silk. The other 2 were spider warriors, 100% not dropping this item. The rest were all dropped by miscellaneous small bosses, a total of 7, adding the 4 he got when he first killed them, making 16, 24 short of Yushio's requirement of 40. According to yesterday's progress, he had to grind for another 2 days. Yushio secretly calculated. This Tianqi group had always followed him to stop at the spider cave until he was about to level up to 18. Waiting until he was 20 and breaking the spider cave would reduce his level by 5. 5 levels in glory was always a very important level, for example, equipment, skills, or monster killing experience. After 5 levels of the dungeon, the experience gained would be greatly reduced. At that time, leveling up would not be established. Yushio would definitely be reluctant to lead Tianqi and the others to work for him for free. Relying on luck to farm items like this was not good. It seemed that he had to find another way. Yishio was worried. Lord Grimm had already gone to the Dry Bones graveyard, looking for Tianqi in the good friends list to ask for a party. After quickly joining the party, Tianqi sent a message. Need more people? No need to add more. Yishio replied. Speaking of which, the Dry Bones graveyard actually had the necessary materials, but until now he still hadn't found any. This heavenly umbrella has not been powerful for long and has already become a burden. It's not easy to open up a small account. Yishio sighed and stepped into the Dry Bones area. Chapter 25. Are you listening to me? Big Brother Expert, do you need anything here? Yishio put on his earphones and looked at Tianqi, who sent the message. I need the sword of the Dry Bone Warrior. Yishio replied. The sword used for decoration? Tianqi was surprised. Yeah. Yishio said. If you need it that much, then we won't add more people, just the 4 of us. Tianqi was quite knowledgeable about this principle. If it was about priority of needs, adding more people would take half a day of negotiation, and it was uncertain if the person would keep their promise at that time. Changing the distribution to the team leader would directly scare the new person away. Who knew if the team leader would share the items with him at that time? So it was best to just let the 4 people who knew each other play together. Okay. Yishio also agreed with this less troublesome plan. Tianqi and the others entered the dungeon one after another, and they all said in unison, Hidden boss, appear. Addicted to killing hidden bosses? Yishio laughed. The 3 of them laughed lewdly. Hee. Ever since they followed Yishio, they were very interested in fighting hidden bosses. If the hidden bosses didn't appear, they could just sweep the dungeon, without any pressure. Let's go, Yishio said. As Lord Grimm swung his spear to clear the way, Tianqi, Mu Yunshin, and Qian Shengli followed behind skillfully. The bone graveyard was raining heavily, and from near and far, one could see green ghosts drifting by, and the sound of ghosts crying faintly rang out. Occasionally, there would suddenly be a mournful groan that was very ear-piercing, making one's skin crawl. No, not only did it make one's skin crawl, it seemed like there was also wind blowing past his ears. Yishio's temperament was strong, so he was certain that this was not due to psychological influence, but that something was really blowing. At this moment, his hand continued to operate, and his head turned back by inertia. Only then could he see a white figure, with 2 pitch-black pupils staring at him, eyes unblinking, red lips that looked like they could bleed at any moment. Slap! Yishio's left hand directly slammed on the keyboard, and only then did he stabilize his entire body. This time, he pressed 7 to 8 keys, and Lord Grimm in the game was momentarily epileptic and made mistakes. Fortunately, he was fighting with a little monster, and Tianqi and the others quickly came to his rescue, which was enough to stop him. It was just yesterday that we had been in the dungeon together for so long and had never seen the Big Brother expert make any mistakes. Why did he act like an idiot today? Could it be that the fake expert had appeared again? But the voice we just heard was the Big Brother expert's voice. Yishio had already hurriedly turned his head back, using quick movements to stabilize the situation. Tianqi and the others let out a sigh, and suddenly heard, Sister Boss, you didn't sleep in the middle of the night, wearing a skincare mask and running here pretending to be a white-faced superhero? What? Tianqi was slightly startled. There's something to listen to. Qian Shengli sent a private message. The 3 of them immediately kept quiet, straining their ears to fight monsters. Can't sleep? Come down and sit for a bit. Chengua said after taking off her mask. Tianqi, step back. Qian Shengli, go up a bit. Mu Yunshin, pay attention to the surroundings. Yishio commanded the battle. Chengua quietly watched Yishio and his group fight monsters for a while, then suddenly said, I don't think Yishio should retire. Yeah, Yishio said. It's just because he's in such a high position, so when Extraordinary Era has problems, he's always the first one to take the brunt of the storm. Chengua said, I always watch Extraordinary Era's matches. I think Yishio and Battle God One Fallen Leaf aren't as strong as before. There must be many reasons. Chengua said. Yishio was silent. Nowadays, the professional alliance is becoming more and more complete. There are as many strong players as clouds. Like Gun King, Sword Saint, Fist Emperor, Magician, their strength is not inferior to Yishio. Their character accounts are also as strong as one autumn leaf. Continued silence. Today is no longer an era where one can be alone like before, but everyone still hopes that Yi Qiu can rely on his own strength to create glory like in the past. This is too much of a request for him. Chengguo said, Tianxi, step back a bit, you're going too far. Mu Yunshin and Qian Shengli, stop, I'll be fine on this side alone. Yi Qiu commanded and operated with a clack-clack sound. Fuck! Chen Guo was furious, stood up, jumped over and grabbed Yi Qiu's neck, shaking him wildly while screaming. Are you listening to me? Are you listening to me? The customers of the internet cafe were slightly surprised. Especially the regular customers peeked over here, wanting to see which guy was tired of living and would go tease our boss Chun, making her scream at such a high decibel level. Tonight someone would definitely die without a place to be buried. Yi Qiu's headset shook a few times and fell off. Faintly coming from inside was the trembling voice of Tianqi and the others. Listen, listen, listen. Yi Qiu, in this situation, still had his hands operating steadily. His spirit was excellent. In the game, Lord Grimm continued to work without any mistakes, but his boss Yi Qiu was being strangled to the point of suffocation. When Yi Qiu's tongue was almost sticking out, Chengguo finally let go. Yi Qiu coughed loudly, his eyes still focused on the screen, while asking Chengguo, what did you say? One hand quickly reached out to pick up the headphones and shouted, Tianqi, retreat, retreat. After shouting, he immediately threw the headphones away. His hand quickly flew back to the keyboard to operate, so busy that he had no time. In the game, the four of them were fighting the dungeon boss, and they were already missing one person, so Yi Qiu couldn't help but control Jun Ma Xiao. Chengguo looked at this person and felt helpless, but couldn't really go over and strangle him, so he reluctantly sat down again, then prepared to turn on the computer in front of him. Take me out to play. Yi Qiu turned his head and glanced over. That computer is the server. You are the owner. Chengguo said. Yi Qiu didn't say anything. This rule was even stronger than the rule of not using the server. How can I take you out to play? Yi Qiu didn't turn his head and was still fiercely fighting the boss. You have an account in District 10. Chengguo took out a card and waved it in front of Yi Qiu's face. As a result, Yi Qiu let out an ah sound, but still didn't turn around. Chengguo was so angry that she really wanted to strangle this person to death and bury him in the backyard. Then you go do the quest in the game first. Yi Qiu said, if you don't do the quest, I'll take you to the dungeon. Chengguo was a little angry. She decided that if Yi Qiu said yes, she would go back and tell him, you're only level 1. How can you do the dungeon? Yi Qiu said, the Forest of the Mist was the lowest level dungeon, for people from level 5 to 10. Characters that hadn't reached level 5 couldn't enter. Think of a way. Chengguo said, okay, let me think. Yi Qiu hummed, his hands still clicking and clicking, suddenly quickly took out the earphones. Qian Shengli quickly returned to the original spot. We're about to be surrounded. What's wrong with you guys? You're making too many mistakes. After shouting, he threw the earphones away, suddenly hearing the sound of knuckles cracking from behind his head. Chengguo gritted his teeth and asked, have you thought of a way? I've thought of it. Yi Qiu quickly said. Ah. Chengguo was surprised. The system's rules were impossible to bypass. How could this guy have a way? If you don't want to do the mission, go kill the monsters first. Kill them until level 5. Yi Qiu replied. Let me kill you first. Chapter 26. Forgot to look at the instructions. Yi Qiu naturally wasn't killed by Chengguo, and it was impossible for Chengguo to enter the level 5 Jelen Forest at level 1. In the end, Chengguo could only open her small account in Area 10 and quietly accept the quest. No matter what, this method was faster than killing monsters. While Yu Shi was busy, he finally turned his head to look and glanced at the character on the screen. Zhu Yinha. I think I've seen this ID somewhere before. Chengguo almost banged her head on the screen in anger and gritted her teeth as she turned her head. It's your big account ID. There, I told you. Yu Xiu had already returned, and Chengguo suddenly discovered that from the time she sat down here until now, except for when she was putting on a mask, this guy would turn his head to look, and after that, she hadn't seen his frontal face again. Just a bone graveyard. Is there a need to be so focused? Thinking about it, one really can't be upset, because one really needs to be so focused. The monsters in this bone graveyard instance appear randomly and are very strong. often accidentally dropping a pile of bone fragments here and there, and then merging into a skeleton, or a skeleton suddenly emerging from the ground. This instance doesn't have a fixed path or attack target. Each time one comes, one enjoys new things, extremely challenging the player's attention and reaction. Moreover, Yushio's team only has 4 people, so one needs to be even more focused. In that case, Yushio's every action is reasonable, and his own anger is unreasonable. Qingguo can only sit by and continue to do the newbie quest. At this time, it's only been a day since the opening of Zone 10, and there are still as many newbies in the beginner village as there are clouds, making it impossible for Qingguo to do the quest smoothly. Even a top expert like Yushio would need 2 hours to complete the quest in this situation, let alone Qingguo. Even though the situation was better than yesterday, lining up and capturing monsters, the outcome was still the same. While doing so, she suddenly heard someone say, "I knew it would be like this." Qingguo was angry, thinking to herself, was she teasing her? But when she turned around, Yushio had already put on his headphones, continuing to focus on clearing the dungeon with others. Was this said to her? Qingguo muttered to herself. In the end, she couldn't bear to go and cause trouble, and continued to quietly clear the dungeon. Yushio and the others were able to safely clear the dungeon of the dry bone graveyard. The process seemed difficult and bumpy, because Tianqi and the others' reactions clearly couldn't keep up with this dungeon, and there was a good chance that the whole group would fall for the sudden attacks of the dry bones. When the boss finally fell, Tianqi and the others were covered in sweat. If it weren't for Yushio, they would definitely not be able to pass this dungeon with Yu Zhongmian. It's not that the difficulty of this dungeon requires a top expert to guard it, but the damage of this dungeon greatly affects the players, requiring a holy messenger to specialize in healing. Obviously, this is a lesson that the newbie village dungeon wants to convey to the players, so that the newbies know the importance of job coordination. As a result, Yushio, Lord Grimm, was there to heal and pull monsters, thus sweeping through the dry bone graveyard. After leaving, Yushio turned to look. Qingguo was still lining up in the newbie village, so he didn't pay any more attention and went in. Tianqi and the others felt a little uneasy. It seemed like they were dragging their feet in this instance. With the abilities of the big boss experts, they could definitely find partners who were much stronger than the 3 of them. If they didn't perform well and were hated by the big boss experts, what should they do? So this time Tianqi and the others focused their attention 100%, being careful and careful. Their reaction speed to the sudden appearance of the skeletons clearly improved a lot. The progress of the instance also increased faster. The Bone Graveyard instance also had 3 hidden bosses: Bone Warrior, Bone Mage, and Bone Lord. But even if there were hidden bosses in this instance, they wouldn't be reminded right away, because these 3 hidden bosses would randomly appear suddenly. Only then would the system send a notification. Often there were unlucky teams that had just discovered the system notification when someone in their team was killed by the boss in an instant. With Yushio guarding, such an accident wouldn't happen. The second time through the dungeon was even smoother than the first, but still couldn't find the hidden boss like before. After going through the dungeon twice, Yushio turned to look again. Qingguo was concentrating on capturing monsters with people outside the novice village. Yushio peeked his head to glance at her level, already level 4. Very soon she would be level 5. Quickly clear the dungeon again. Yushio thought to himself and hurriedly went in. Tianqi and the others didn't hesitate at all. Kill, kill, kill. Go, 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 go. Suddenly a tilted tomb in front shook slightly. Tianqi and the others didn't know anything and continued to go forward. Yushio hurriedly shouted, "Retreat back." The group now didn't have time to think about Yushio's command and automatically followed, at this moment retreating back. Lord Grimm's figure suddenly rushed out from right in the middle of them. After the tombstone shook slightly, it suddenly rumbled and rose from the ground, flying towards them. Yushio shouted, "Be careful." Being alerted early, Tianqi and the others quickly dodged, not being hit by the tombstone. The tombstone just flew up and revealed half of the skeleton hidden in the tomb. Looking at the exquisite and complete skeleton, one could immediately tell that it was not an ordinary monster with incomplete ribs. The system's message also solemnly announced, "You have entered the resting place of the Dry Bone Warrior." Finally met. Yushio was overjoyed. "How did you fight?" Tianqi and the others hurriedly asked. The Dry Bone Warrior had only revealed half of his body when he jumped out of the tomb like a rocket, displaying his leaping ability. In midair, he stretched out his bony body. The dust that had accumulated since he rested fell down like rain, his hand brandishing a giant sword that looked extremely chipped. But that sword was as big as his entire person. It's broken, Yushio said. What happened? Tianqi and the others hurriedly asked. Forgot to look at the instructions, Yushio said. The three of them simultaneously vomited blood. Big brother, you're so amazing. Let me help you see? Mu Yunshin shouted. No, if you attack, you'll die. While Yushi was speaking, the bone warrior had already jumped up and slashed the ground with his sword. The earth shook and the mountains shook. The shockwave spread out in a large area. Qian Xingli was slow to escape, but was knocked off his feet by the shockwave. The bone warrior's deep black eye socket swept around, as if searching for a target. Who's going to take it away? I'll look at the instructions first, Mu Yushin said. No need, Yushio said as he took off his headphones and shouted, Boss, boss. What is it? Qingguo responded with a click, without turning around. Help me find the instructions, Yushio said. Instructions? What instructions? Qingguo turned around in surprise. Instructions for fighting the bone warrior. Yushio controlled Lord Grim while pointing at the screen. Qingguo's head almost hit the screen. You guys only read the instructions after encountering the boss? Why didn't you do it earlier? Clubsuit, 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 clubsuit. Chapter 27. Check the guide. Forgot. Yushio replied honestly, leaving Qingguo unable to dig any deeper. On the other side, she was just queuing up to capture monsters, not in a hurry at all, quickly closing the game, going online to find a guide to defeating the bone graveyard. While opening it, she asked Yushio, which boss? The bone warrior. The main thing is to see how to make sure it drops its sword 100%. Yushio said. The sword? 100% drop. For Qingguo, the appropriate level to enter this instance was also something from 5 years ago. She also knew about the sword 100%, because she would occasionally pull in new players. She had an impression of this thing but didn't know that there was such content in the guide. After all, in her memories, she had used a large account to sweep. Why would she need to read the guide? There is, just look for these key contents. Yushio replied very confidently. However, he had forgotten the specific content, but he was certain that such a thing existed, because he had written it. Qingguo hurriedly searched for the keywords skeleton warrior, sword pendant, 100%, and indeed, the search yielded results. He looked at the time of the post. It was already 10 years ago. Qingguo clicked to look, and immediately said, Oh, it's Yuchio's post. The author of the post was clearly Yu Jiqiu. This wasn't a secret of Glory. Everyone knew that when Glory was still just a game and hadn't become a professional alliance, Yichio's ID was already a very famous expert. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been invited to become a professional player when the professional alliance was established. Yes, it's that one. Let's see how many times you have to hit the sword pendant before it falls off. Yushio said, Huh? Qingguo had never seen this post before, suddenly not understanding what Yushio said, hurriedly scrolling through. Finally actually found what Yushio asked. 24 times? What about the effective location where the sword dropped? Do you need to see it? Qingguo asked. Enlarge it so I can see it, Yushio said. Qingguo opened the image, enlarged it to the maximum. Hey, take a look. Then he suddenly saw Yushio quickly turn around to look. In less than a second, he turned back. Finished looking? Qingguo was surprised. Oh, Yushio said. Do you need anything else? No need, Yushio said. He clearly remembered that there was also a physical attack requirement. Although he didn't remember exactly how much, but with Wu Tianji's physical attack of 180 plus the strength attribute, he believed that Lord Grim would definitely be able to reach that standard. Tianqi, go to the left. Mu Yunshin, circle around to the back. Qianxingli, retreat a bit. The next shockwave will hurt you. Yushio began to command the positions of the three people, and he began to stand in front, looking for an opportunity to attack. Just now, the four people were just dodging. Without Yushio's command, no one attacked. The three Tianqi still thought that Yushio wanted to find a guide to deal with the dry bone warrior, not knowing that Yushio didn't need a guide to kill this one. He just wanted to find a way to drop the sword with 100% accuracy. That sword was just a decoration. It didn't have any effect on the character's strength, so there was this way to drop it with 100% accuracy, but it also required extremely high skills. At this time, Qingguo had already thrown the game aside, standing behind Yushio. She wanted to see how Yushio could complete 24 hits on the sword's bracelet. She looked at this guide. That position was in the middle of the dry bone warrior's waist, that area. The size wasn't big. Now looking at the real image of the game, it was impossible to find it if it wasn't close to 2 meters. Yushio also manipulated Lord Grim to go up. During the process of treating the four people, the Bone Warrior had locked on to Lord Grimm as the one with the most hatred. Lord Grimm was still dodging left and right. Tianqi and the others were always moving around, waiting for Yishio to finish reading the instructions and start commanding the attack. But after Yishio finished reading the instructions, he arranged for the three of them to stand even further away. The three of them did not understand Yishio's intentions and could only listen. Seeing Lord Grimm welcoming the Bone Warrior, everyone felt tense. It's finally starting. The Bone Warrior ran quickly. The bones on his body also made a heavy, ear-piercing sound of collision. Yishio commanded Lord Grimm to quickly catch him, his eyes searching the Bone Warrior's waist. Ching was standing behind him, suddenly discovered. This is even more difficult than the instructions. The instructions clearly showed the position for everyone to see, but in actual combat, the Dry Bone Warrior swayed. This action accidentally covered the position of the bracelet. The Dry Bone Warrior had a tall body and a long sword. 2 meters away from Lord Grimm, he raised his sword. Yishio was not in a hurry. In terms of attack speed, the Sky Umbrella's attack speed of 5 was definitely on the giant sword. The attack speed of normal giant swords were all the slowest, at 1. In terms of attack distance, although the Dry Bone Warrior's giant sword was large, it could not be classified as a long weapon like a war spear. Yishio calmly pushed the mouse. Lord Grimm's war spear shook out, coming later but going first. A dragon tooth stabbed at the right time. The Dry Bone Warrior paused for a moment. Lord Grimm had already gotten closer and immediately launched a heavenly strike. Although the Dry Bone Warrior's weight was heavier than the Dark Knight Cat Demon, it could not be heavier than the spider boss with a shrunken head and a big belly in the spider cave. After being hit by the heavenly strike, it was suspended neither high nor low. Lord Grimm took the opportunity to stab his spear, and a twang sound was heard. This sound was very different from when it hit the Bone Warrior's joints. Hit it. Shinguo behind Yishio excitedly shouted. Just once. Yishio replied casually, his fingers flicking the keys. Lord Grimm's spear had just finished hitting when it turned around and slashed horizontally. The Bone Warrior was sent rolling on the ground by a heavenly strike, and then was swept horizontally by another strike, with another twang sound. This strike also hit the position of the bracelet around his waist. Yishio was not greedy. After the second strike, he immediately controlled Lord Grimm to jump out. The Bone Warrior fell down and then pushed himself up from the ground, creating a shockwave with a 360-degree range. In order to prevent shameless players from using attack skills and continuous horizontal sweeps to torment them, most bosses had shockwaves when they stood up with their hands. Shinguo watched from behind, seeing that they hit the same spot twice. At first he was happy because of Yishio's good start, but after another time, he only felt that he could hit that tiny spot twice in a flash. This operation was really too terrifying. While he was in a daze, his ears rang again. Lord Grimm indeed jumped out at the right time, avoiding the impact of the shockwave in time. The shockwave just passed. Yishio had already commanded Lord Grimm to charge forward again, a spear piercing the spot. The Bone Warrior had just raised his 2 hands and swung it. Lord Grimm had just turned around in time. The giant sword seemed to pass right by his body. The 3 Tianqi who were watching couldn't even tell if that sword strike had caused any damage to Lord Grimm. From the health and mana bars on the team list, they discovered that the other sword had been completely avoided. Chapter 28, Professional Standards. Tianqi and the others did not dare to breathe loudly, afraid that it would affect Lord Grimm's battle. The 3 of them simultaneously raised their alertness, ready to act at any time. Who would have thought that after waiting and waiting, they would only see Lord Grimm and the Dry Bone Warrior fight more and more dangerously, and they did not have the slightest intention of calling for their help. Tianqi and the others, one on the left, one on the right, one behind the Dry Bone Warrior, all stood firmly in the area outside the shockwave coverage area that occasionally appeared from the Dry Bone Warrior. You don't want a solo, right? Mu Yunshin sent a message to Tianqi. To be honest, I also suspect so. Tianqi said, fighting the hidden boss alone? Just typing these words, Mu Yunshin felt that it was terrifying. This is not something that no one can do, Tianqi said. Big Brother's expert is too strong. What is his background? At this level, I think our guild leader can't handle it. Mu Yunshin said. Absolutely not. Tianqi concluded. The pitiful guild leader of the Ueluan Guild became the object of worship for everyone in the guild because of his 200 hand speed. As a result, after only 1 day of clearing the land in the 10th area, 3 traitors had already appeared in the revolutionary team, and they no longer paid any attention to the boss. This time, Qian Xingli also sent a message. You don't want a solo, right? In the game, there was only the front channel, no secret channel. At this time, if the three of them used their voices, the place they were standing was within range. The sound would be a bit loud. So they were afraid of disturbing the big brother expert fighting monsters, so they secretly sent messages. It's possible. Tianqi and Mu Yunshin both received the message from Qian Xingli and replied at the same time. Too awesome. Do we need to record it again? Qian Xingli asked. There was a video recording function in the game. This matter, the big brother expert hasn't said anything yet. Let's forget it. Tianqi said. After Qian Xingli finished speaking, he didn't say anything more. The three of them continued to watch Jun Mashio fight monsters. He played with a battle spear very skillfully, dodging, moving, and hitting like in a movie. Tianqi and the others had their eyes opened wide. Comparing this person to a normal player fighting monsters or piking, it was like comparing a person with a big chest to a person with a muscular chest. Average, too average. Qinghua stood behind Yushio, still trying to count the number of hits. In terms of viewing angle, she was on the contrary not as good as Tianqi and the others. Because she was like Yushio, both of them were watching from Jun Maxiao's perspective. Watching like that, she couldn't see many of Jun Maxiao's movements. On the contrary, because Jun Maxiao's perspective rotated and changed, it almost made her dizzy. She couldn't keep up with the rapid changes in the image on the screen, often suddenly turning, making her unable to determine which direction the character was turning, which direction the Bone Warrior was facing. Bracelet? She couldn't even see where the Dry Bone Warrior was, let alone the bracelet. But with the chaotic situation under her eyes, Yushio's movements were still as clear as ever. Qinghua was stunned as she looked at Yushio's two hands, and discovered that Yushio's left hand moved faster than yesterday, while his right hand holding the mouse moved even faster, but the movements weren't many, usually after one movement. He would immediately click left, then right. Qinghua was very surprised. She naturally knew that the left mouse was a normal attack, the right mouse was a skill attack, and each mouse movement indicated the direction and position of that attack. Yushio either moved or clicked the mouse. It was neat and flexible, without any hesitation. Looking back at the screen, she discovered that no matter how quickly the image changed, the mouse always moved to the right place, and then attacked without a single tremor. Yushio's right hand not only was fast, but also very steady, extremely stable. Professional standards are indeed different. Qinghua was amazed. At the same time, the earphone hanging around Yushio's neck made a small ting sound. Qinghua heard it very clearly. She could only count the number of times based on this small sound. 20. It had already hit the bracelet 20 times. But what about Lord Grimm's health? During this whole process, not a single point was lost, proving that the Dry Bones Warrior could not cause any damage to him. Mu Yunshin, Shattered Mountain Halberd. Yushio suddenly lowered his head and shouted into the earphone. It's our turn to go on stage? Mu Yunshin thought that this time the three of them didn't need to fight, but when he heard Yushio's call, he drew his sword and charged forward without saying a word. Lord Grimm just in time used a heavenly strike to push the Dry Bones Warrior towards him, and Mu Yunshin immediately received it with a Shattered Mountain Halberd, slashing the Dry Bones Warrior who fell from the sky to the ground. Completely slashing out 8 consecutive strikes, this was the limit of the Shattered Mountain Halberd. Block. Yushio still reminded Mu Yunshin, but Mu Yunshin obviously had this intention as well. As soon as Yushio finished speaking, he prepared his block. The Bone Warrior stood up, causing the shockwave to sweep across the sword, making a loud noise and pushing Mu Yunshin away. Mu Yunshin's block had reached level 4 and could neutralize 70% of physical damage. This shockwave wasn't a big move, and 30% of the damage after being hit was naturally nothing. Yushio's Lord Imo Shao had also jumped away from the shockwave long ago and immediately counterattacked, using his Dragon Fang to freeze the Bone Warrior. Mu Yunshin quickly understood the strategy, and the freezing skill was already prepared without needing to be reminded. Tianqi, Shallow Life. Yushio shouted, and the other two also rushed over, quickly understanding Mu Yunshin's intentions, and their freezing skills were ready to be offered at any time. What's wrong? Qinghua didn't understand why Yushio suddenly called for help. Didn't you see it? Yushio asked, immediately controlling Jun Maxiao to look down. Qinghua immediately saw the Bone Warrior's sword lying quietly beside his feet. After the bracelet was broken, it fell off. What happened? Wasn't it 24 times? Qinghua was surprised. Although the earphones hanging around Yushio's neck were a bit far away from her, the ting sound of metal colliding when fighting with the Bone Warrior was very loud, Qingguo felt that she couldn't have heard wrongly. It was 24 times. Yishio said. I only heard 20 times? Qingguo said. 4 times using lightning chain, so it was 2 consecutive attacks. The speed was too fast. Maybe I couldn't hear it. Adding those 4 more wouldn't make it exactly 24 times? Yishio asked. Qingguo was surprised. 2 of Lian chops hit the same spot? Then can it trigger the hidden bleeding effect? Why didn't you see it? 4 times didn't work? It's blocked by the ring, so it doesn't count. Skeletons are immune to the bleeding state, right? Yishio said. Qingguo blushed. In Glory there were quite a few monsters that were immune to the bleeding state. Skeletons were one of them. Without flesh and blood, what's the point of bleeding? The settings were set like this. This was basic knowledge, but a veteran player like Qingguo had forgotten it in a moment. It was all this guy's fault. He kept changing the perspective. He forgot what the monster was. Qingguo angrily sat back in front of his computer. There were still as many newbies in the novice village as before. The little monsters still had to be taken advantage of as usual. While he was annoyed, he suddenly heard Yishio sitting next to him ask, Sister, are you preparing to play at night? Chapter 29. Team, occupy the head. So what? Qingguo asked back. If you want to play at night, then just sit here. I'll go sit in the smoking area. Yishio said. If you go sit in the smoking area, then does that mean you're on duty or me? Qingguo was angry. Hey, otherwise, can you change seats? Don't you hate the smell of cigarettes? Yishio said. Qingguo's face was filled with tears, although she knew clearly that this was for her own good. But what was this feeling of being chased away? Yishio sat next to her, already holding a pack of cigarettes in his hand, hinting that it was time for Qingguo to choose. Either sit here instead of Yishio on duty, or go play somewhere else. Forget it. I'm not playing. I'm going to sleep. Qingguo angrily exited the game, stood up, and ran away. Yishio turned around to look at Qingguo, suddenly discovering that after Qingguo inserted the account card, he threw it on the table without bothering to take it back. This wasn't because he forgot, but because Qingguo treated the internet cafe as his own home. It was very normal for him to throw things around the house. An idea immediately came to Yishio's mind, and he quickly shouted, The owner hasn't taken the card yet. Do you want me to help her practice tonight? Whatever. Qingguo replied casually. Yishio nodded, using his hand speed of nearly 300 to quickly light a cigarette and put it in his mouth. The process of besieging the Bone Warrior was still going on, and at this moment, Yishio was talking while holding a cigarette without any effect, continuing to concentrate on playing the game. Not long after the Bone Warrior was completely annihilated, the sword that Yishio needed was also lying on the ground. He just had to go pick it up, and the other things were decisively thrown away. Tianqi and the others didn't give in to each other anymore. The 3 of them divided the items according to their profession, and the other materials were just thrown into their bags. Tianqi said, Big brother expert, we plan to keep the high-grade materials dropped from the hidden bosses yesterday for now, and sell them later at a higher price. The new area is full of swindlers who cheat people and buy them at a low price. After the price stabilizes, we will share them with you. I already took my share, the rest is all yours. Yishio said, You can take more, big brother expert, don't be so modest. Tianqi said. Yishio smiled, but didn't say anything more. The 4 of them continued to finish the dungeon. Tianqi asked, Do you need more people? Yishio understood what he meant. The necessary items had been obtained. If the team had 1 more person, the efficiency would be better. Go ahead. But today I plan to practice to 21st, and then I have to bring my friends to practice. Yishio said. All right. Do you need our help? Tianqi asked. In fact, Yishio and Qingguo didn't intentionally turn off their headphones when talking. Tianqi and the others heard quite a bit. No need. You guys just do your own thing. Yishio said. Oh. Tianqi didn't say much more. They had only known Yishio for a day, although the relationship in the game was formed quite quickly, but as adults, everyone still knew their limits. After leaving the dungeon, Tianqi started calling for parties. In the newbie area, parties were very easy. There was a long list of applications. In the end, Tianqi chose a level 17 female player to join the team. The girl's name was Xunyu. After entering the team and seeing the list of members, she was very excited. Tianqi, Mu Yunxin, Qian Shengli, Jun Ma Xiao. Wasn't this the team that first passed through the spider cave and killed the spider lord? Unexpectedly, he could join such a high-level team. After connecting his voice, Shinyu hurriedly conveyed his excitement to everyone. Because the voice system was popular throughout Glory, it caused all the men who played female accounts to be wiped out. When everyone played together, they would definitely use their voices to communicate. Whoever used a female character and kept typing without talking, everyone would be suspicious at first. Of course, if a man had a voice like a girl, this inborn talent could only make it difficult for people to guard against. After Tianqi and the others heard the girl speak, they subconsciously walked around 1 meter in front of her. Yishio knew that they were looking at her appearance. There were 2 types of characters in Glory, male and female. There is an editing system for creating a specific face and body shape. You can design it yourself or choose it randomly. Those who like realism can directly enter their image into the editing system. After providing basic body data, the system will automatically create a game character shape that is quite similar to a real person. Therefore, whether the female player's appearance in the game is real or not is a question that many men are very interested in. It is said that there are also some experienced wolf gamers who can tell at a glance whether this girl's appearance is real or fake. Tianqi and the others seem to not have this wolf attribute. After surrounding and watching the newly arrived Shinyu, they only thought of the 2 words normal. Whether it is real or fake, they don't know. This Shinyu is extremely active. After expressing her admiration for the head-occupying team, she expressed her honor to join the team, then expressed her surprise when she learned that the expert in the team was only level 18. Finally, she asked if she had the chance to become a permanent member of the head-occupying team. Regarding this, Tianqi could only regretfully explain that their team still had 1 person. It was just that they couldn't come today, so they added someone. Shinyu was extremely regretful, but she still didn't give up. She couldn't be the main team member, so she started trying to see if she could apply for a supplementary position. She also asked which guild organized the group. This question made it very difficult for Tianqi and the others to answer. It was obvious that outsiders all worshipped them as a team full of experts. Currently, the group had not entered the dungeon, and Shunyu was the same. But as long as they entered the dungeon and started the mission, experienced players would immediately discover that in the opposing team, there was only 1 expert, Lord Grimm. The rest were basically not worth mentioning. Shinyu's questions and expectations could actually only fall on the head of the expert boss. Now she was asking which guild. Tianqi and the others had a guild, but now that the great aura of the expert boss was here, wouldn't it be embarrassing to show off their guild's name? Oh, we should still seize every second to attack the dungeon. Tianqi changed the subject and took the lead and ran in. Mu Yunshun and the others hurriedly followed. Entering the dungeon, Yishio naturally started to command. As soon as he said a sentence, Shinyu continued in confusion. I mean, who is talking? The little girl who had just entered the team was already chattering away. It was all Tianqi and the others who were chatting with her. Yishio only opened his mouth after entering the dungeon for the first time. Jun Mo Xiao, our team's great god. We were able to take all the first place thanks to him. Without him, our team wouldn't be worth mentioning. Tianqi found an opportunity, spoke the truth, and immediately felt a lot more relieved after speaking. Greetings, great god. Shinyu typed with an emoticon and added her own voice. Haha, let's go. Yishio laughed, leading the way. Commanding, killing monsters, it didn't take long for the demeanor of a master to be completely revealed. True talent was displayed before them, but Shinyu didn't react too agitatedly at all. Tianqi and the others had already seen it. This little girl was a true new player. This little girl is done for. Mo Yunshin said softly. Yeah, starting too high, just a newbie, and already knowing such a super expert. How can I play with mortals in the future? Tianqi said. What a tragedy. Tianxin Lai exclaimed. Chapter 30, 2 Hidden Sword Machines. Shinyu was definitely a newcomer who was very popular with everyone. Ever since she entered the dungeon, she had been quiet, carefully listening to the instructions, and seriously executing them. Although it was inevitable for a newcomer to make mistakes, she always took the blame first, and everyone couldn't bear to criticize her too much. Speaking of which, when Shinyu made a mistake, Tianqi and the others were even more nervous than she was. They were afraid that the big brother expert would feel annoyed because of it. Many experts were always impatient with the mistakes of newcomers. After passing half of the dungeon, Tianqi and the others were finally at ease. Even though the Big Brother expert's level was very high, he was not the type of expert who thought he was above the law like they thought. With newcomers, he was even more patient than Tianqi and the others. For some instructions that Xinyu didn't understand, the Big Brother expert even came to explain the specialized terms to her. With the addition of a new person like this, the efficiency of clearing the dungeon was still the same as before. Seeing that the big boss didn't care, Tianqi and the others didn't bother anymore. While fighting monsters, they also helped teach the newbie, looking quite happy and harmonious. After chatting, they found out that this was Xinyu's first time playing a dungeon. Her entire leveling journey was thanks to doing quests. She had done everything she could. There were only a bunch of quests left to do in the dungeon. Only then did she come outside the dungeon to randomly ask to join a team, and as a result, she just got into a branded team like this. Of course, she was extremely happy. Under the guidance of the master, after finishing a dungeon, entering the next one, Xinyu looked more presentable. The little girl had only never played Glory, and she was not a complete newbie who had never been in contact with the game before. In the end, after a few rounds of clearing the dungeon, Lord Grimm and Tianqi's group reached 20 at the same time. Xinyu's level was a little lower, and she was still struggling at level 19. Yushio saw this and decisively led the team to sweep a few more rounds, and even Xinyu reached 20. During the entire process, a total of 2 hidden bosses appeared, and Yushio led the team to easily kill them all. However, today he did not pick up any purple or orange equipment or above, only a few rare materials. The newbie Xinyu naturally did not know that these materials were the most valuable things in the dungeon, and could only stare at the equipment and drool. However, Tianqi and the others were reluctant to play dirty when they saw that there was a Big Brother expert here, so they had to explain to the little girl the value of these things. As a result, Xinyu was very clever, using the excuse that she was a newbie, and that she had no use for the materials she picked up, so she chose to ignore them all. Tianqi's group's goodwill towards this girl immediately increased 100-fold, expressing that they would remember her, and that they would split the money after selling her. All right, then everyone go ahead and do your own thing. I'm leaving. After leaving the dungeon, Yushio greeted the 4 people. Big Brother expert, don't you want to change your class? When they reached level 20, all they had to do was change their class, and then leave the novice village. No rush, you guys go ahead. Big Brother expert, we'll contact you later. Tianqi said. Goodbye, great God. At this point, Xinyu was already familiar with everyone. Furthermore, after hearing Tianqi and the others recount the majestic history of Lord Grimm, they finally decided to address each other as great gods. Yushio smiled, said goodbye to everyone, and left. The 4 of them returned to the novice village to receive the job change mission. Yushio let Lord Grimm go towards the Forest of Jelen instance while turning around to log in with Qingguo's account card, allowing the level 5 Yinha of Zone 10 to enter the game. That's right, although Glory can't open 2 at the same time, but if there are 2 computers at the same time, one person playing 2 accounts, no one can stop you. That was Yushio's intention. As long as there are 2 people or more, then it's considered a team. There will be a chance to encounter a hidden boss. Yushio also needs some materials from the Dark Knight Cat Demon. The first turn, without going into the hidden state, Yushio didn't say much, directly entering the instance. The 2 characters switched to the danger mode. Their health and magic power in the danger mode were all 0. All attributes were reduced by 80%, just like a cripple, needing to rest for 10 minutes to recover. But no matter what, it was faster than finishing the instance. Junemo Shao had stopped gaining experience in the Jelen Forest. He had originally said that he would drag Zhu Yinhe to level up, but Qingguo said whatever, so Yushio did the same. He smoked a cigarette, drank some water, walked around, and when he returned, Junemo Shao and Zhu Yinhe had recovered. He entered the dungeon again, and instead of going out to hide, Yushio decisively chose to leave. Once every 10 minutes, it was already 6 times an hour. If he were to sweep the Jelen Forest alone, it would take 15 to 20 minutes no matter what, and the time saved was extremely obvious. However, this method could only be done in the beginner's village. The later regular dungeons of the beginner's village all had a limit on the number of times. 5 times a day, 3 times a day, even once a day, once a week, all had limits. This time, Yushio ran to look at the guide. He had really forgotten a lot of things from the early stages. It wasn't good to just go look at the guide every time he entered the dungeon. 10 minutes later, he entered the Forest of the Forest again, still not coming out. Yushio wasn't in a hurry. He left to look at the guide. The fourth time, the fifth time. Yushio's luck points seemed to have been used up on the first day, entering the dungeon 5 times but still not encountering any hidden boss. Finally, on the 6th time, the system showed the Dark Knight Cat Demon reminder that Yushio had been waiting for a long time. Yushio let out a sigh of relief and started to play the dungeon. Logically, there was no use for entering the River of the Storm. Leaving or letting him stand still at the entrance was fine. However, Yushio thought that he had to play the dungeon anyway, so he decided to drag him along to get some experience. So the two sides started to operate. First, let Truck Yin-ha stand in a stable position. Lord Grim dragged the monsters to kill in the range where Truck Yin-ha could gain experience. One moment on this side, one moment on the other side. Very busy. In the middle of the night, a customer who went to the restroom stopped by the counter. Seeing this scene, his eyes widened and his mouth opened. Dude, you play, but you played too. How fierce. Yushio turned his head and smiled at that person, not speaking. This side operated continuously. As long as the Dark Knight Cat Demon appeared, there was no need to worry about anything else. The things Yushio needed would 100% drop. Luck determined the quantity. As a result, the moment the items came out, Yushio's luck flared up again. The Dark Knight Cat's nails he needed dropped 4. Adding the first 2, it was already 6. Yushio needed 8. One more time would be enough. After defeating the Dark Knight Cat Demon, Yushio once again left the instance in a grand manner. Continue the 10-minute rule of unlimited hidden swords. Once not available, twice not available. When Yushio returned for the 3rd time to collect his luck points, he suddenly discovered that the system had a message waiting to be processed. He opened it and saw that the system was reminding the player Lanhe to add him to his friend list. Accept or not? Lanhe? Who is this? Yushio looked beside Junimo Shao, unable to find a player with that name. He thought about it because he was already 20 and was still guarding the Jelen Forest, so he wanted to add him as a friend to request a level up. Yushio casually chose to ignore it, but found that there was still a message left. He ignored it again, and there was another one, and there was another one. After choosing continuously for 10 minutes, this person named Lanhe still persistently sent 18 requests to Junimo Shao. Ignoring it did not mean rejecting it. The message that was ignored could be requested again. Yushio was moved by this person's perseverance, so when another request popped up, he clicked accept.